Liz, and thanks for the opportunity to provide this briefing to you. Today's purpose of the briefing is threefold. First, to outline the end-to-end process we're following in relation to the former Phillipstown school site. Second, to share emerging information that's come to light since our last discussion. And thirdly, to seek your guidance on any specific issues you'd like us to address as we move forward. As you know, the Ministry of Education has formally advised of its intention to dispose of part of the site at 39 Nursery Road in Phillipstown. This presents us with an opportunity to consider a purchase. The initial notice was issued on the 1st of October, giving us 20 working days to respond, but since then we've secured an extension and now have until the 28th of February to provide a formal position. This timeframe gives us space to consider and the implications carefully, and today's discussion is just an important step in shaping that response. Angus and I will both walk through the process, highlight some key considerations for you, and then invite your direction on areas that you'd like us to explore further. So I'll hand over to you, Angus.
Okay, thank you. As Claire said, we got a notification from MOE on the 1st of October that they were going to commence their disposal process. On the next slide, which we won't bring up yet, I'll go through what that process looks like. We immediately went to them, as Claire said, and said we can't make a decision within a 20-day period, which is what the notice provides. We asked for an extension and we've got that through to the end of February. It's a little bit of a complicated site. So the disposal area is the area outlined in blue there. There's a couple of iterations of that because of the building. Actually, I'll stand up and go over here if you don't mind. A couple of iterations because of this building here. And disposal area may look like that if they don't want to demolish the building. If they want to demolish the building, it will look like that. So options here. They are going to retain the early learning site on the left top corner, and they're going to retain the transition unit on the northern side of that blue line. There's a little bit of confusion, which I'll try and clarify around the term hub. So the trust call this the Phillipstown hub, which they run off the area in blue in all the old classrooms. And there's a community garden over to the left of that, which is that sort of grassed area you can see. The building I've circled in red is on land leased by the council from MOE and has a building on it owned by the council, which is also referred to as a community hub, which is also run by the trust. So in my conversations with MOE and that, there's been quite a bit of confusion about the term hub. So we're dealing with a few things there. One is the trust, which are running the Phillipstown hub off the old school site, and we've got our own asset, which has got a lease through to 2026, which is also part of that community-run facility and provisions in Phillipstown. When we bring back an options report on this, we're going to have to address both those issues. And we're talking to MOE about our ground lease and the status of that hub building in the northern side.
Next slide.
Yeah, next slide. So the Crown disposal process, they're much like us when they deal with issues, got a process to follow. They offer this around for alternative public works to other public bodies and entities. That's how we've got the Section 50 notice. So we're first cab off the rank to make a decision. If us or other public entities don't exercise a Section 50 option, then they will have to go through offer back obligations, of which they're saying there's none. Then they will go through the RFR process with iwi, And if that doesn't result in a sale either, they will put it on the open market. If the council was to buy it, we would need to pay market value. So there's a process to go through to derive that. In the options report, we will put forward our opinion of value, which we've got from an independent registered valuer. But in that, there will be valuation risk because they'll have to get their own valuation and we'll have to agree what that value looks like. They have not received any responses from any other public entities. So at the moment, we're the only ones looking at the Section 50 public work transfer. So it's important to note that if council was to buy it, we would need a public work in behind this. So similar to our normal business. Slide. So we're working with the MOE through processes, trying to get information. We've got a valuer on the land, which I can't talk about in this meeting, but I think there's an opportunity to maybe share that outside this meeting because it's public excluded. But it is going to be a relatively expensive bit of land because it's underlying zoning is industrial. And then you've got a whole lot of old classrooms on it that have not been maintained for the last 10 years. So a lot of deferred maintenance, remedial repairs. We're getting some condition assessment work done to inform the options report as well, so that you'll understand what that means in terms of remedial repairs, deferred maintenance and ongoing operating costs if purchase was an option. I talked about the council-owned building, which I think has got to be part of this conversation as well, because it's part of the community service proposition in the area. We have 3.7 million in the budget to provide some sort of community services in Phillipstown. And the other thing I should say is we've canvassed the Ministry of Education about a partial purchase of the site as well, and they've indicated that's a possibility. So if we only wanted to buy half of it or whatever, we could look at that as well. Claire and I have had a couple of meetings and been on site with the trust, and we want to further that. And we have talked about partial purchase options, what that might look like. So those are options we will bring forward as well. I'll let Claire talk about the trust and what's going on there.
Yeah, so at the same time, there's a parallel process going on. Staff in the Community Support and Partnerships Unit are undertaking quite a comprehensive needs assessment. One was already done in 2020, so that goes on the back of what was done independently, with the view that the ministry may very well sell the land. So that was done by the trust through RSL. We're doing an in-house needs assessment at the moment. But a bit of background about Phillipstown. It was established, the trust was established in 1998 by the community for the community. And the trust has meaningful connections and deep roots in Phillipstown. They've been the trust that has maintained that relationship since 1998. Obviously with different trustees as we've gone along, but the entity has been the same. Pre-earthquakes, the Phillipstown Community Centre, as Angus said, was located adjacent to the Ferndale School, which is the house that's owned by council, and it's currently occupied by the Refugee Council. And the hub currently caters for local residents as well as quite a number of metropolitan groups. So our needs assessment, we're really hoping to understand more what the options and future aspirations are of not only the trust, but the people of Phillipstown first and foremost. And the trust's letter to us, we received a letter stating that it was going to cease trading on the 31st of March. They have let their tenants know, and they've let the community know also that that's what they intend to do. When we first received that letter, we thought they were winding up entirely the trust as well, but we've subsequently heard that that's not the case, and they'll be looking at alternative options as well. And it makes sense for us to be doing that in partnership. So we're working quite closely with the trust. As part of, and this will come in the needs assessment a little bit later, but without going into too great a detail around some of the demographic changes, Phillipstown's always been a diverse community, one that's had a reasonably low income, cheaper accommodation. That's the same, but with housing intensification, I think the demographics are changing somewhat. Still affordable rent, lower cost housing, but we have a lot of solo parents in the area now, an increasing ethnic diversity too, with significantly higher Māori, Pacific and Asian communities living within Phillipstown, and 39% of the population is aged between 0 and 24. So there's a significant gap for services and supports for young people in the Phillipstown area that we've identified in the early stages of the assessment. So as I said before, we're working with the PCCT Trust to understand what their needs are. A survey is currently out, and we've had quite a number of respondents. It closes on the 30th of November. This week, I'm hoping to undertake some one-to-one interviews with local businesses, the school and the local play centre as well, to ensure we get the greatest number of results from people who actually either work or live in the Phillipstown area. It's part of the Waipapa Community Board's plan. Well, it was the previous one, and it's stated that the hub has a permanent home and can continue to grow to support the needs of the Phillipstown and Charleston communities. A mapping exercise shows limited provision in Phillipstown, very limited for alternative facilities. So the tenants have been advised the current space at the Multicultural Centre is available for some of those more cultural activities that have been operating out of the hub if they wish to relocate. The hub currently hosts 8 anchor tenants and a wide range of casual users. Some of those are very clearly metropolitan focused, and we're interested in hearing also from those organisations that are servicing the Phillipstown residents specifically. So 4 have given notice and are seeking alternative premises already. We'll continue to work with those groups as well to make sure that they're not left high and dry, or that we're there to support them through the next stage of whatever that looks like. So the emerging themes from the survey thus far is that the hub is unanimously, people have said that the hub is an important community anchor. They like it because of the inclusion, diversity, connection that happens within it. They want to ensure that there is accessible wellbeing, learning and creativity opportunities within any alternative site if that goes ahead. Important infrastructure and services located on site together. People really appreciate the green space, of which there's quite a limited amount of green space in the Phillipstown area, and activities that encourage local sustainability. The Phillipstown hub's been really great at championing that. Local resident sentiment reflects the ongoing need for a community facility in Phillipstown. So our next steps to continue engagement with the stakeholders, including but not limited to the Ministry of Education and the Trust and the community organisations within the hub. We are going to brief the Waipapa Board on the 11th of December, complete the community needs analysis by the 15th of December, and develop a full range of costed and analysed options in an options report by the 15th of January. So it's quite, they're very close. It's a lot of work to do before then. And present the options report to Waipapa Community Board before we then go to the final council meeting, Part A, recommendations to council, on the 18th of February. And that hopefully all aligns with the information that we're getting day by day from the Ministry of Education and what comes out of the final needs assessment. So that's us for now, and welcome any questions or comment.
Tim, did you have a question, or was that from previous? Sorry, I had it written down.
When you look at other community centres or areas like Eddington and Waltham, etc., that because of the financial situation we are in, yes, there's definitely a need in this community, and we have the multicultural centre, the old netball. You know, we're spending a lot of money in these areas. I think to come back with a medium kind of, to rather than say we have to buy the whole lot, which I don't think for me is going to fly. We've got to look at what we can live with in these communities. And, you know, Waltham Cottage, for instance, is an amazing organisation and amazing place, but it is an old house on a section. If you look at Eddington, the
Manuka Cottage.
Manuka Cottage. I mean, Eddington still has 47 different nationalities. So if we're looking at a community, you know, that works really well. So I would like for you to come back when you do to have a look at what we can do.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
I recognise that.
Yeah, thank you. Yanni, please.
So I think one important aspect to consider is that when the school was closed, it was done in a way that was absolutely outrageous and actually subsequently found to be completely wrong. And there was a apology that was recommended by the Ombudsman. So I don't know if the ministry, it says the Secretary of Education made the apology in the statement, but I guess my response would be actually addressing the harm that was caused, you know, some sort of restitution for the harm that was caused to this community in regards to that process would mean that the ministry should be taking a more collaborative approach around the disposal, acknowledging they've given us an extension, but actually, I think actually significant discount on any purchase for the community good. I did wonder what our plan is to engage with central government over this. I have previously raised the need to have an MOU with the MOE about how we work together, and I'm not sure that anything has ever progressed of that. That was after the earthquake, something that was proposed, but it seems to me that there's strategic issues that we should be working on together, where they want land from us from parks to expand certain schools in certain areas, and we want, you know, things like land that they might have for community use, but there doesn't seem a very joined up approach. So I'm just wondering, how can we have some leverage in our discussions with the ministry over a joint program to do the best by the community rather than just continuing to act individually? And I mean, the example I'll give will be the Linwood Lower Fields and the Kamahia unit, where there was a clear community need, but they, I think, sold it to some private people, and we lost the ability to.
You got a question in amongst all that somewhere?
Yeah, well, it's how can we work together to get better outcomes for the community rather than have this kind of individual process, project by project, where, you know, one side has all the leverage and the other side has none.
I'm sure Angus can clearly talk to someone about that.
Yeah.
Not related to the item. Happy to provide additional advice on that. We have in the past provided advice on these various subjects several times, so I just have to refresh myself on those responses. So if you could, we'll respond to you, councillor, but through the digest, because it's not really related. The matters you're talking about are more general than the specific.
Well, in terms of the specific, like the questions I would have around, you know, like urban growth, we're seeing a huge amount of intensification.
That's nothing to do with this bit of stuff.
No, it is.
It isn't.
If you look at the statistics, and they're slightly outdated, but the statistics are showing that there's huge intensification happening in this area with a certain change in demographics. So the question I would have is like, is there a need for a school in the future? That's what, I mean, people in the community have raised it with me. So selling off the land.
It's not what this is about. We're either looking at on it or we're not, which it comes down to. Jake, please.
Thank you. Obviously, really supportive of this piece of work and securing the future of the hub. Really do want to see a wide range of options. Totally appreciate Tim's prudent option about, you know, taking a bit of the land, but obviously we may want to acquire all of it at this stage and then parcel off bits down the road when land prices are higher or when there's a need. So that's something we should look at as well. Yes.
Yeah, we've got two questions, me and then Kelly. Angus, if we end, and I'm sure it'll come back in your next report, what state are the buildings that are there? If we ended up with this, we could end up with a hand grenade with a pin pulled out, I'm sure.
Yeah, I've got TSD are going to do a condition assessment report, but over the last 10 years or more, they've just been maintained by the trust on a limited budget. Their words were the southern side of some of the buildings are pretty rotted out. There's visible evidence of deferred maintenance. There's likely to be asbestos given the age of the buildings and that. So, yeah, it will not look like that. They're 1970s old classroom blocks that have not been well maintained. So there's going to be a raft of issues.
Thank you, mate. No, that's cool.
Yeah.
And lastly, Kelly, please.
Yeah, thank you. You mentioned in Phillipstown that there's not a lot of parks in the area, green space. But I know that Lancaster Park is 200 or 300 metres away, and there's a park across the road. Just in terms of, I also note that it's surrounded by commercial properties on 3 sides. Is it likely to be potentially rezoned commercial or
The
residential?
site,
It is.
its underlying zoning is industrial. So, and as part of the disposal process, the Crown accredited agent will be looking to uplift the school designation.
Yeah.
And it is likely to then become the underlying industrial zoning.
Yeah, and so just trying to understand it completely. So the top part, that's not going to change. That's going to stay as the sort of the multicultural centre by.
Well,
Is it-
the top part's a transition unit that's a partnership between 2 schools for youth that need support and assistance. We have a small building in that top right-hand corner under a land lease.
Refugee and resettlement.
Yeah. But there's no security of tenure over that land lease. We're trying to get some certainty from MOE about what that will mean. But I think we're dealing with a collaboration between MOE and the Board of Trustees of that school. And there's sort of talk if that school needs to expand, they might not renew the lease on that building. So that is stuff we're working through to bring forward the options report. So the landscape around the community provision and that is changing. There's a lot of stuff going on site at the moment. As Claire said, some of the groups are already decanting. So the community provision going forward will not necessarily need to look like it does now. So that's stuff we've got to work through in the next 6 weeks to bring forward an options report that covers off all those issues.
Excellent. It's a good response. Thank you. Thank you very much. So we look forward in anticipation of what you're going to bring for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.